well, I basically accidentally cut myself off on that video. But like I was saying, I felt as if that family was being held in some kind of subjugation there by that dark entity. And so I basically just reached out with my own energy of just feeling compassion for them and everything, and it felt to me as if somehow that was, by acknowledging them in that compassionate way, that it was somehow releasing them or bringing some kind of a healing something energy to just bring balance back to that place or something. That's how it felt to me at the time. And so we left after that. Like I said, I didn't tell anyone that I did that. I just kind of did it within myself because I didn't really understand what that was really. I just thought it was something that I just felt like I needed to do. Well, after that, we ended up leaving, and I ended up dropping out of college because it was just too expensive and I couldn't afford it. So I ended up dropping out that same year, and I found out later that that house, the plantation house, apparently a storm had come through. Some kind of major storm went through Ventress, and lightning struck that plantation house, and it burned down. Like the entire house. It didn't just catch on fire, like, and burn up a little bit. Like the whole entire house burned down to like nothing but ash. Like it's just gone now. And I thought it was really peculiar because after that experience that I had there, I know this house was like there from the 1700s, all the way until basically the present day in 2008 and shit. And it seemed weird to me, or not weird, but peculiar to me, that it would be after that experience when I felt like I was releasing the spiritual energy there, and I feel like it almost felt like it was banishing that dark spirit. Like maybe that dark spirit needed some kind of healing or something, and like it felt like it was releasing it, like it felt appeased. That's the word I was looking for. Like this, it felt like I was appeasing both that family and that dark spirit by me acknowledging the whole situation in the way I did. I felt like it was appeasing something, like it was settling it or whatever. And I thought that was very peculiar that after that thing, within a year, that house was struck by lightning and it completely burned down. I thought that was very, very peculiar. And it was just amazing to me. But I wanted to share that story with you all because, like I said, I was meditating about the Sabbath coming up, of Halloween, All Hallows Eve, Samhain, and I was meditating about that, and it just brought to memory that experience, and I was like, I need to share this. So I told you all. But I'd like to know what you all think about all that. So be sure to comment and talk to me about it or whatever. Come out to Facebook and visit me there. I have a group on Facebook, actually, Empowerment for Witches. That's what it's called. You can come out there and I'll add you to it, and there's like a bunch of powerful witches in there, and we all just talk and discuss things and share and all that. It's a really good learning place. A lot of people in there message me and they're like, I'm very just thankful for being part of the group because it's very helpful to anyone. Like it's good for beginners, it's good for advanced practitioners. I learn from it still, from other people and stuff. So, I mean, it's a really good place to go if you want to come out there and participate in discussions and stuff. What else was we going to say? I was going to talk about spirit communication. And that's one of the main things that people want to know about once we get to this time of the year, when obviously the veil is thinning, which this Sabbath, Halloween coming up, is a very sacred day to witches and everyone who's clairvoyant and psychic and sensitive, and really just to anyone. It's just a time of great sensitivity for even just a regular person. They'll even be more sensitive during this time of year because the veils are thinned as the earth kind of turns away from the sun and starts increasing. The nights start getting longer while the days become shorter. And you'll just notice that the spiritual energies change during this time of year. And it really brings the thinning to where, the thinning of the veil, to where the spiritual essences that are not physical anymore, but yet they're still very much on the same plane that we're living in. They're just invisible now. That they will become more apparent to us. And I don't know really if that means that they're becoming more physical, or does it really mean that us who are living are becoming more spiritual? That's how I'd like to perceive it. I think that maybe us living people become more attuned to spirit during this time of year naturally, because this is the way the natural cycle goes. But there is ways to develop that skill, of course, in just any time of the year. You can just be spiritually sensitive and communicate with spirits and stuff. So I was going to talk about how to communicate with spirits. And I might as well just talk about that now. If you want to communicate with a spirit, there are some procedures to follow. Like, you need to establish contact with it. The way that you do that is you begin to acknowledge it in very, it's like politeness in a way to the spirit. Like, you're acknowledging it by giving it offerings, and you can give it, drinks, food, candles, just whatever you want to offer to it. You just typically say, whatever spirit that you're trying to communicate with, you say, spirit blank, fill it in, whatever you're calling it. This offering is for you. Like, you make sure that you say that out loud, and you talk to that spirit as if you're really communicating to it. You just say it absent-mindedly. You have to really be talking to that spirit and offer that thing to it. And pray to it. You can begin praying to the spirit or the deity, whatever it is you're trying to communicate with. You can begin praying to it. And really, in this way, you're like drawing its attention to you. Because, like I said, these spirits are still occupying the same space as us. They're just not physical, So they're still here. They're just not physical. So when you acknowledge them in such a way, it's like they begin to pay more attention to you. Because just imagine from their perspective, if you're just this invisible person, and like all these physical, visible people are just living their lives and they don't even know that you're there, If suddenly one of them started to acknowledge you and start to try to talk to you and stuff like that, you'd start paying more attention to them. So that's basically how the procedure works to start to establish contact. You have to draw the spirit's attention in that way. And whenever you do that, it's going to take time, obviously. It's not just going to happen overnight where you just give one offering and you make one prayer and then it just works. Like I said, you have to really gain the spirit's attention. So once you establish that, the spirit's going to start hanging around you more often. It's going to be like, okay, this person notices me, this person's acknowledging me, I'm going to start, hanging around them. So once that occurs, you will start to see phenomena start to happen around your house. Like, you will start to see, or whatever vicinity you're in, or wherever you're leaving these offerings and stuff, you will start to notice that things begin to happen physically. Like you will hear knocking sounds or tapping. Physical objects will move and stuff like that. You will hear strange sounds, maybe whistles. I've heard whistles before. The tapping, from my personal experience, I communicate with spirits all the time in my practices, especially with goddess Hecate, and I hear knocking and tapping on my walls like every day. It's like every day basically. It's constantly. And basically what that is just that spirit is letting you know, hey, you've paid so much attention to me, I'm paying attention back to you now, and I'm going to try to communicate back to you. So it's going to start tapping things and moving things and stuff like that. Once you get to that level, you have to, of course, in the same way like how you built it up, to get to that, you have to continue building up to the next level, which is once you have given it so much attention and all that, and it's tapping things and everything, you can then take it to the next level if you want to really communicate with that spirit in a practical way. Instead of just hearing taps or whatever as acknowledgement, you will begin to really be able to have like discussions and dialogues with the spirit and stuff like that. And in order to do that, you're going to have to do an invitation to the spirit to use your body's energy. Okay, because like I said, they're not physical anymore. They don't have a physical body. They're invisible. They are non-physical. So in order to communicate with you on the physical level in that intelligible way, they're going to need energy. And you can provide that by telling that spirit, like, spirit, you can use my body's energy to communicate with me. You have to give it permission. You have to really mean it. And you have to build that up. It doesn't just happen overnight. You've got to build it up like that. And once you get to that level and you've given it permission, either the tapping and popping and other physical signs will increase even more, or they'll decrease. Most likely they'll decrease, because the spirit's going to realize you've given it an invitation to use your body's energy, so it can basically use your own mind to think through you. Like it can, and that's what's called telepathy. The spirit will actually think in your brain in response to things that you are asking it from your own thoughts. It will think responses to you. I know that sounds a little bit odd or whatever, but really test it for yourself and see how it works. You have to have discernment, because you're probably going to think at first that it's your own imagination. If you do get to this level and you do start getting responses, you're going to be like, oh, I'm imagining this or whatever. But the way to test it is you're going to want to ask it questions that you do not know the answer to. Like, you don't know the answer to something, it's not in your own mind's knowledge. You're going to ask it questions that you don't know the answer to, and it's going to answer you. You're going to let it think through your mind because you've given it permission to, and it's going to answer you. And you write down that information, or you just remember it, whatever, however you want to do it. You record that information in some way. And then after the conversation has taken place, or the telepathic communication has taken place, you're going to go and you're going to do research. You're going to see if that answer was real or not. And if it is, then you've established true contact. And you can telepathically communicate with that spirit now. If it turns out the answer is false, then you're doing something wrong. You're either imagining shit, or you might even have a deceptive spirit. So you got to be careful what spirits you do this with. You can't just go around trying to do this with random spirits. You're going to want to do it with like a spirit guide, or a god or a goddess that you trust first, or something. You don't want to go directly to trying to communicate with the dead. Do not do that. Okay? Do not immediately try to communicate with your dead grandma. Do not immediately try to communicate with someone that's dead. Okay? You don't want to do that because you can be deceived very easily by doing that. And when you're giving these spirits access to use your body's energy, you are sharing your mind with them. It's not something that you want to do lightly. So you're gonna want to make sure that the spirit is trustworthy. So you're gonna want to choose a spirit guide that you feel like you can trust. You maybe in meditations or in dreams or something like that. You want to use something that you know you can trust. And once you do that, then with a spirit guide or a god or goddess first, then you can begin to grow your skills with it. Like you can begin to start talking to dead spirits and stuff like that. And that's actually how all mediumship works with like mediums who communicate with the dead and stuff like that. That's what they're doing. They're using this process that I'm telling you. They allow the spirit to talk through their mind, and they allow the spirit to use their body's energy and use their mind to think. And it's like any skill. It's like you have to learn how to understand it and how to do it properly. It's really one of the main tips I can give you is it's about release and surrender. Like you will just ask a question, and then instead of trying to consciously control anything, you just let go and you just allow it to flow. And whatever it is, you just allow it to flow. Then you record it, you discern if that's true or not, and then you'll know. So, of course, if you don't want to take it that far, you can still communicate with spirits through the tappings and stuff like that, where you do not give the spirit permission to use your body's energy, but you do draw its presence into your area by giving offerings and stuff like that. And from there, you can just ask it simple questions like yes or no and stuff. You can ask it like, give me a certain type of knock for yes, and it will do it. Or you can be like, give me a certain type of knock for no, and it will do it. And so you'll know. It's a more simplistic form of communicating if you do it that way. But if you really want to communicate on that deep level like that, and it's not just about communicating with spirits, because if you do it like that, you will develop other psychic abilities. Like you'll be able to have telepathy and read minds and stuff like that, just by developing it. Because it's like I said, the spiritual realm is all around us, and everything's connected. So all these spirits that are invisible, you don't acknowledge in your daily life, but if you do begin to acknowledge them, then you acknowledge their oneness with you and merge with them and stuff in a conscious way, and not like possessing you, but in your mind or whatever, just communicating with them is what I mean. You'll begin to develop other psychic abilities, and that is really honestly how I have developed my skills with clairvoyance and clairsentience, and just being psychic in general, is through doing the type of communication I'm talking about with Goddess Hecate. From that, I developed my skills into what I have now, where I can do psychic tarot card readings and stuff like that. So it also increases your ability for divination. And right this time of year is the most perfect time to start working on these practices. That's why I wanted to do this video now, because it is, we're working on like a month before Halloween, so you can develop a lot if you start now from when I'm posting this video to all the way up to Halloween, and you really start giving those offerings and stuff and acknowledging those spirits. So you can start to develop this pretty fast. Like I did it within 2 months. Just developed it to talk with Hecate. But from there, it's like any other process. You have to continue to grow it with other spirits and stuff like that. But you always want to be careful what spirits you do this with. If you don't want to just do this with any spirit that you randomly decide to do it with. If you're going to do it with a spirit, you need to make sure there's a legitimate reason why you're seeking to do it. And you need to make sure that you have it established with your spirit guides or with a god or goddess first, because they will act as a sort of an intermediary between you and other spirits to be sure that those spirits aren't harming you or wishing you like evil intent or anything like that, or trying to trick you even. Your spirit guides and your gods and goddesses, they always have your best interests at heart, so they will look out for you if you establish that first. Alright, well, it's basically, I don't want to cut myself off again like I did in the last video, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. I will be doing more videos pretty soon. I want to talk about how to cast a spell, because a lot of people don't understand how to cast a spell. Do you know that? A lot of witches don't really understand how to cast a spell in the right way. They don't understand it. But I would like to describe that all to you from my experiences of how I cast spells, and kind of teach you my method, which really works very well. So, very exciting, so stay tuned. Hail to the witches and blessed be.